All right, y'all, I got a whole bunch of breaking news here for you. Yes, I have Jimmy Kimmel updates. Yes, I have Charlie Kirk updates, but I also have about 523 other things to get to as well. So sit back and relax. This one's probably going to be a long one, playing catch up here. But let me start with this. So Estonia is now saying that Russian fighter jets are violating their airspace in a brazen incursion. And so this comes right after we had Vladimir Putin and Russia. They sent a whole bunch of drones, a whole bunch of fighter drones into Polish airspace. And that led to a massive crisis. You know, NATO is scrambling behind the scenes, getting together at the last minute. They invoked, I believe, Article 4 it is. Estonia is invoking Article 4 over this as well. And so this is, make no mistake about it, this is Putin testing his limits, right? And the other thing is he's gathering intel on NATO and on their ability to have decent response time. That's what this is also. And so this is a very, very dangerous moment, man. I mean, I know Trump always liked to attack Joe Biden and say, we're on the brink of World War III, folks. But without a hint of exaggeration here, we're actually on the brink of World War III. And in this moment, you have Trump, who's wholly unequipped to deal with somebody like Putin. I mean, Putin knows exactly how to work this guy. First of all, Trump has a soft spot for authoritarian leaders anyway. But add in the fact that he knows exactly how to massage his ego. He says things to him like, well, you actually won the 2020 election. Everybody knows that. I mean, it's the mail-in voting. That's the problem. You got to get rid of that mail-in voting. So he's using Trump to basically lead to instability within the U.S., but also, flattering him to get on his good side. And basically now he's pushing the limits as much as humanly possible. And Trump is basically nowhere to be seen. I mean, when you had the Russian drones go into Polish airspace, he was out there saying, oh, maybe it was a mistake. Maybe it was a mistake? No, they very clearly did it on purpose, and they were gathering intel to figure out NATO's response time. And now, what are they going to do next? We don't know. The illegal and offensive invasion of Ukraine was bad enough, but everybody, was saying at the time, this isn't going to stop here. Like, if you don't make him stop, this will continue. And we'll be at a place where he wants to pick off all of the post-Soviet states that are now independent. And so here we are. Polish airspace violated, Estonian airspace violated. Which country is it going to be next? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But he feels absolutely emboldened. And the fact of the matter is, we have a pushover fucking idiot who's in the White House. And that is not a good mix, y'all. That is not a good mix at all. So I also wanted to bring up for you guys that this is huge news here. But President Trump is expected to fire the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia after his office was unable to find incriminating evidence of mortgage fraud against the New York Attorney General Letitia James. So if you'll remember, Trump basically said, I want you to find some dirt on Letitia James. And they came up with this idea of mortgage fraud. And so you had the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia was the one who was looking into this for Trump. This person comes back and says, sir, I looked and unfortunately there's nothing there, so there's nothing I can do for you. In other words, Letitia James didn't commit a crime. I know that you wish she did, but she didn't. And so Trump's reaction to that, instead of being an adult, instead of saying, okay, it is what it is, no, his reaction is, I'm now going to fire this person and bring somebody in who will muck up fake charges to go after Attorney General Letitia James. This is how insane this man is. This is how ridiculous he is. This is how childish and petty and how much like King Joffrey he is. Basically, Letitia James's name was totally cleared, and he's like, well, I don't give a fuck, unclear it. So you want to talk about, political persecution. I know he liked to pretend like he was the victim of political persecution, but the fact of the matter was he was charged with 91 crimes because he committed 91 crimes. He actually did the crimes, and then when the judicial system kicked into gear and actually held him accountable, he was like, well, this isn't fair. I'm supposed to be able to get away with my crimes. No, you did it. And so that was the system working as it should work. But in this instance, he's like, well, I don't care that you actually cleared her. I want to fucking destroy her. So do it or get out of the way. That's what's happening here. So absolutely horrific stuff there. And it's amazing that this stuff is just it's out in the open. This is all discussed out in the open. You know, this was like an ABC News article that lays it out in no uncertain terms. Hey, this is what's happening. He's pissed off that, this U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia is abiding by the letter of the law and doing their job. He's pissed off that they're not acting like a political hack, and he wants to bring in a hack because he has, he wants to get some retribution and revenge on Letitia James. So just absolutely crazy stuff there. Now, this was a huge deal, too, and I don't see the media talking about this much at all yet. But shout out to Ken Klippenstein because he's the one who got this first. And then I believe Drudge picked it up and some other places may have picked it up. But according to him, the FBI is now preparing to label transgender people as violent extremists in the wake of Charlie Kirk's murder. So let's reflect on how absolutely monumentally idiotic this is. Even if you accept the official line from Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Trump, which I don't, by the way, but even if you accept it, what happened was you had Charlie Kirk get killed by a white male from a Maga family in deep red Utah. And that white male from a Maga family in deep red Utah was largely apolitical, but happened to be pro-LGBTQ rights. They allegedly had a potentially, we don't know for sure, trans partner. Even in the official story, the allegedly trans partner was the one who called the police, called the FBI, and turned in the white male shooter. And somehow, these fucking clowns look at that story and they say, let's designate all trans people as terrorists, as violent extremists. This is fucking insane. And this is what happens when you have this sort of an ideology. You try to square peg and round hole every situation. You forget what the question is. The answer is, I fucking hate trans people. The answer is, the LGBTQ community are all evil and horrible and terrible and they shouldn't exist and they're degenerates and people need to get out of that lifestyle and they're demonic. I mean, this is what these people actually think. And so here we are. They're going to try to label all trans people as terrorists. And understand something, guys. This is fucking dangerous. This is dangerous. You're now, giving a green light to every violent bigot out there, every Nazi extremist and white nationalist extremist out there. It's a wink and a nod that's like, yeah, it's fucking open season on these people because we're designating all of them as violent extremists. That's like saying they're bad, they're the other. They have it coming. Whatever you want to do to them to get them in line, they have it coming. And it's already hard enough to be a gay person or a trans person, especially a trans person in the year of our Lord 2025. It's hard enough to get the employment that you need in order to survive. It's hard enough to hold personal relationships. Oftentimes, families still disown their kids if they happen to be trans. And now it's a scenario where the government is saying, hey, green light, baby. You go ahead and do whatever you want to do to these people. They're violent extremists. Even though in this story, even if you accept the official story, which I don't, the trans person is the hero. The trans person helped out the investigators. So this is low, bro. This is low. And we're talking about less than 1% of the population here. Less than 1%. They already have it hard enough. Talk about lack of sympathy, lack of empathy. I mean, these are people, could you imagine feeling like you were born in the wrong body? Like being convinced, no, something's off here. Something's not right. You're born biologically male, but inside, hey, I feel completely female. I feel like everything about me is supposed to be female. And so all you're trying to do is live your truth. All you're trying to do is live in accordance with how you feel inside, which is what we all try to do, right? But when they do it, it's totally fucking unacceptable. Because these closed-minded fucking idiots out there have this rigid idea that you have to, a man has to be a man, and a woman has to be a woman, and they need to get in the kitchen, and the man needs to go out and be the fucking breadwinner, and everybody needs to fit into these neat little fucking boxes. But that's not how the world works. The world's a messy place, okay? The world's a complex place. Some people just happen to be gay. Some people just happen to be trans. It is what it is. Who gives a fuck? Why does it matter to you? You want to fucking terrorize these poor people as if they don't have it hard enough already? It's unbelievable. Again, you have a story where it's a white male shooter from a Maga family in deep red Utah, and boom, jiu-jitsu move, blame the trans people. This is fucking crazy. This is crazy, but I'm not done yet. I'm not even close to done yet, because it's not just trans people that Trump is trying to besmirch and smear and basically fucking put a target on their backs for the world to see. No, it's also Antifa. So Trump came out and said the following: I am pleased to inform our many USA patriots that I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization. I will also be strongly recommending that those funding Antifa be thoroughly investigated in accordance with the highest legal standards and practices. Thank you for your attention to this matter. So, as Dropsite News says, Antifa, short for anti-fascist, is not a single group, but a loose network of activists who oppose far-right and fascist movements. They organize protests, counter-rallies, and sometimes direct action against white supremacist groups or far-right events. Trump says he is moving to designate them a major terrorist organization. So, a couple points. First of all, remember when World War II happened and we were against the Nazis? You could say the entire U.S. military at the time was Antifa. That is fair to say. That's point number one. Point number two, they're not an official organization in the way that we understand organizations. There is no structure. There is no central command. There is no hierarchy. There's no nothing. There are a bunch of people online that they say, oh shit, the Proud Boys are going to be protesting here. This fucking neo-Nazi group is going to be here. Patriot Front is going to be there. They're threatening drag queen story hour or whatever the fuck it might be. It's a bunch of people who get together online and go, let's go counter-protest these motherfuckers and make sure they're not cracking skulls and assaulting people. That's what Antifa is. That's it. That's it. But now he's going to act like, like this is some fucking high-level James Bond villain type-ass group where they're all getting together. There's a chain of command. There's a hierarchy. It's flush with funding from George Soros or whatever the fuck they think that they made up. And now it's like, he's going to try to go after Antifa groups, which begs the question, well, what the fuck is an Antifa group? I just told you there are no official groups. So what are they going to do? I'll tell you what he's going to do. We know what he's going to do because he's already doing it. He's going after, for example, Act Blue, which is the Democratic fundraising apparatus. If you donate to a Democratic group or a Democratic politician or a PAC or whatever it may be, usually it goes through Act Blue. They're launching an investigation against Act Blue to try to take it down to make sure you can defund any left-of-center groups. That's one of the things they're doing. The other things they'll probably do is any sort of think tanks on the left, they're going to crack down on them and say, oh, you're caught funding Antifa, you're funding terrorist organizations, you're funding trans people, and they're all violent extremists. We're going to fucking destroy you. What we're witnessing here, in no uncertain terms, is fascism. What if you're a big money donor, one of the few big money donors on the liberal side of the aisle, and you happen to give money to, an abortion rights group or whatever? They're going to say you're under investigation for funding Antifa. They're going to say you're under investigation for funding the violent extremist trans people in this country. That's what they're going to do. So understand, nothing about this is official. Nothing about this is legitimate. Nothing about this makes sense. All it is I want to take down my political opponents. That's it. That's all this is. And so even though zero evidence that the guy who shot Charlie Kirk, that guy was in Antifa, right? We know a trans person didn't do it. That's a fact. They don't care. He doesn't care. This is the shock doctrine. This is what Naomi Klein talked about. The idea is we're going to use this scandal. We're going to use this moment of uncertainty, and we're going to implement the agenda we already wanted to implement, namely go after aggressively using the law, using lawfare, go after every single left-of-center group that we possibly can. Now, I should also point out, he's designating Antifa a major terrorist organization. So somebody decided, well, let me run this through AI and see what the numbers are when it comes to, Antifa violence. Ready for this? Based on comprehensive databases, there's been, when it comes to political violence from 1994 to 2020, there's been 893 incidents. Antifa-linked attacks number in the low dozens, and they're non-lethal, mostly non-lethal property damage or clashes, while right-wing extremist attacks exceed hundreds, 267 or more since 2015 alone, causing far more casualties. So right-wing violence has caused at least 329 casualties. Antifa violence, 0 to 1. And I like how they put the zero in there, like the one that there was a death, it potentially wasn't even because of Antifa. I love that. 329 versus 0 to 1. What are we doing here? Guys, the whole right-wing movement, MAGA, is totally built on lies. It's just lies. They're just full of shit. That's it. And they want you to fall for it. They want you to join their death cult. They want you to shut your fucking brain off and go purely by emotions and hate the people that they handpick for you. And it's all a trick because the people you should be hating are the fascists and the billionaires. Namely, the main groups that make up MAGA, right? Fascists and billionaires are the problem. They're the reason your life sucks. But no, they want you to blame trans people. They want you to blame Antifa. They want you to blame immigrants. It's a fucking sick joke. It's a sick joke. So somehow, they're a major terrorist organization, but they haven't fucking killed anybody, and the organization doesn't exist. It doesn't exist as a hierarchy, as a structure. What a sick joke. Holy shit, what a sick joke. Oh my God. All right, I got more. I'm about to lose it on this one. That's for sure. I'm about to lose it on this one. So, I remember, it was not that long ago when, Trump was running against Kamala. And I remember looking at every single MAGA idiot on social media and all the people in real life, too. They swore up and down 1,000 ways to Sunday that, hey, the reason why I have to support Trump is because the right is both pro-free speech, laugh along with me, and anti-war. Laugh along with me again, right? Well, guess what? This just came out the other day. This is from Fox News. Here's a quote from Trump on Bagram Air Base, which is the air base in Afghanistan. Quote, "We're trying to get it back, by the way, okay? That could be a little breaking news. We're trying to get it back because they need things from us. We want that base back. It's an honor. It's an hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons." So to put that in layman's terms for you, here's the anti-war president saying, I want to re-invade Afghanistan and take back Bagram Air Base. Let me repeat that. I want to re-invade Afghanistan and take back Bagram Air Base. So if you're keeping score, the anti-war president it hasn't even been a year yet, and he's already bombed Yemen. He's already bombed Somalia. He's already bombed Iran. He's already bombed Venezuela. There's plans to bomb Mexico. He's talking about stealing Greenland, talking about stealing Panama, talking about stealing some territory from Canada. Come get your anti-war president. Come get your anti-war president. Imagine being duped by this fucking charlatan. And these people, let me be clear about something. They had no excuse whatsoever, because there were assholes out there like me warning them from before that, you know what, he's not what he's pretending to be. Yes, half the time he says anti-war shit. The other half the time he also says pro-war shit. But none of that matters. What matters is his record from the first term. And in the first term, he increased drone strikes over 400%. He kept us in Iraq. He kept us in Afghanistan. He bombed Syria. He bombed Somalia. He bragged about stealing the oil from Syria. He increased the Pentagon budget every single year. He illegally attacked Qasem Soleimani and killed him. He lured him there by saying we're going to negotiate. Then he murdered a top Iranian commander. That's what he did. He also pardoned war criminals, like from Blackwater. So understand, all the evidence was there that this guy is a fucking liar and a con man, and he's going to get us involved in more wars. And now here we are. Imagine a Democrat. Imagine it was Joe Biden, who, by the way, ended the war in Afghanistan and then told the media to suck his dick when they started attacking him over it. One of the best things he ever did. But imagine it was Joe Biden who came out and said, "Oh no, Jack, I think we should re-invade Afghanistan. I think that's a good idea." Could you imagine what the reaction would be in that scenario? We would never hear the fucking end of it. Everybody on the right would be correctly screaming, "Oh, this fucking warmongers, America first, focus on America. Why are you focusing on Afghanistan?" Trump does it. I haven't heard a single fucking person on the right bring it up. Not a peep. Not a peep. It's awfully fucking quiet out there, if I don't say so myself. So, yet again, I reiterate, tell me how my ass tastes. I was right again. I told you he was not in favor of free speech. He's, in fact, more anti-free speech than any president in modern American history. And I told you he was pro-war, not anti-war. And here's yet another example of exactly that. And all these people who pretended like all they cared about was being anti-war, they will now proceed to say nothing and not condemn Trump, even though he's saying, I want to re-invade Afghanistan. Jesus Christ, man. Holy fucking shit. Holy shit. All right, more horror stories for you, though. So, guess what? RFK came out and he decided yet again with one of these vaccine advisory panels, he decided we're going to further restrict vaccines in this country. So as you all know, they cut off all of the research and development for the not for the MMR vaccines, for the mRNA vaccines. And of course, they restricted who can get the COVID vaccine. All this stuff is a huge deal. I mean, we were on the brink of a fucking cancer vaccine and he cut off the research funding for that. Just completely and utterly unacceptable, right? Well, now what we learned is they are changing the childhood vaccine schedule. And what they're doing is they're making it so that instead of getting the measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox vaccine, which is all one vaccine, instead of getting that basically like right away when you're born, now they're saying, well, we want to separate some of them out, right? So we don't want to have one vaccine that has measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox. We're going to break those up to, I believe, measles, mumps, rubella in one and then chickenpox in another. And they say, we recommend you get it at 4 years old. So in other words, let's have this large chunk from when you're born where you're not protected from measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox. So this is the change that he wants to make. Now, mind you, he's making this decision and other people that he picked for this panel are making this decision. You go through their names and it's a who's who of every single fucking crackpot, junk science believing, anti-vaccine freak that you've ever seen in your life. I mean, I think fucking Dr. Robert Malone, who's an anti-vax crackpot, he's one of the people who's helping RFK on this panel make this decision. This is criminal. This is criminal what we're talking about here. The least qualified people, the biggest fucking liars in the country, and these are the ones making the decision. So let me read you a little something from the Guardian article on this because I really think this says it all. Ready? Quote, measles, mumps, rubella, and chickenpox can be highly dangerous to children, as the CDC noted in a presentation during the panel meeting. During the last rubella outbreak in the 1960s, more than 2,000 newborns died. Before the measles vaccine was developed in the 1960s, there were 48,000 hospitalizations for measles each year. Before the emergence of the chickenpox vaccine in the 1990s, there were upwards of 10,000 annual hospitalizations for chickenpox. So again, instead of getting that vaccine right away, they want you to wait now till you're 4. Well, I just told you that 2,000 newborns died during the last rubella outbreak in the 1960s. So yet again, RFK is putting the lives of kids in danger. People will die because of this dumbass decision that he just made. People will die because of that. And guess what? He's not done with the damage yet. Even to this point, bro, again, it hasn't even been a year. What has he done so far? Limited access to the COVID vaccine, put vaccine skeptics on the advisory panel, fired the CDC director after only a month because the CDC director refused to push the junk science that RFK demanded that she push. He fired 1,260 people at the Epidemic Intelligence Service. So next time there's an outbreak, oh my God, are we fucking as exposed as ever? He ended the U.S. support for a global vaccine program. That's going to have wide-ranging consequences. That'll lead to people dying. He helped kick millions of people off of Medicaid with that big bullshit bill that Trump did. 17 million people going to lose their health care because of Trump, because of RFK, because of Maga. He canceled the flu vaccine campaign. He's trying to link, as we speak, antidepressants to violence, which is total fucking horseshit. It's always been horseshit. He laid off thousands of HHS workers. So, this is who we're talking about, guys. This is who we're talking about. We're talking about a guy who, here's his integrity. Ready? This is how much integrity he has. He released a Maga report with fake made-up chat GPT shit in it. And this is why you've had mass resignations at the CDC, at HHS, because they go, look, they're destroying everything. They don't know the fucking first thing about science. They don't know their ass from their elbow. They don't know about medicine. He's just making all these fucking crazy-ass decisions, and the whole country is being held hostage. You got this fucking asshole who's pumped full of human growth hormone and testosterone and fucking, popping Zins all day like he's some frat boy teenager. He's drinking methylene blue fish tank cleaner because the new fad on the right where they say it fixes your mitochondria or whatever the fuck. This is who's making all the health decisions for the goddamn country. This is who's doing that. It's a sick joke. And remember, lest you think Maga is a real thing, like this guy actually gives a shit about making America healthy again. Remember when Bernie asked him, hey, is healthcare a human right? His reaction was like, meh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that, fella. So let me get this straight. You're going to make America healthy again, but you're not going to try to do it in what would be the most straightforward way imaginable, which is say, everybody should have a right to health care. We should have Medicare for all. That's great, man. That's fucking lovely. We're the only developed country in the world that doesn't have one version or another of universal health care, and your ass doesn't give a fuck, doesn't care, which means what? We're going to have anywhere between 45,000 people and 60,000 people die every year because they don't have access to basic health care. And he's fine with it. As long as you fucking drink your methylene blue, right? And take the peptide that makes your fucking skin darker, which I'm not kidding is an actual thing that he does. So, I mean, this is where we are. This is how much this country has fallen. All right, let me give you some more. So, this is kind of a big deal. An Israeli tech company named Cyberwell is now working with all major social media platforms to censor anti-Semitism by utilizing AI to identify and, quote, automatically flag and remove hate speech. This is what's happening. So this is kind of a big deal because, as you all know, they recently changed the definition of anti-Semitism to include being, pro-Palestine, right? Being against it, being anti-Zionist. They say anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism, which is just factually wrong. That's factually incorrect. Plenty of Jews are anti-Zionists. They don't want an ethno-state in their name because they know ethno-states are bad. Ethno-states necessitate having second-class citizens in it. We want everybody to be equal. We believe in democracy and egalitarianism and human rights. You can't have an ethno-state and also believe in egalitarianism and equality and human rights. It's not a thing. So, but it doesn't matter. They changed the definition, and now they're fucking, ripping through the internet with AI to try to pull down any comments that they think are unacceptable. But of course, what they deem unacceptable would probably include things like from the river to the sea and free Palestine, say I'm an anti-Zionist, things like that. Probably talking about the genocide. They would just say, hey, that we say that's anti-Semitic. This is where we're at now. And by the way, I got an update for you later. I don't have it's not in front of me yet, but I'll get to it eventually. But they're already doing it with TikTok. TikTok was known as like a bastion of pro-Palestine stuff, and now they're cracking down on all of that. And this comes at the exact same time that you had Trump have a couple of his billionaire asshole buddies now take over TikTok. Soon as they do, boom, there we go. It's over as a bastion for free speech, as a bastion for pro-Palestine activism and videos and things of that nature. Now they're cracking down on that. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this. So, Trump did an interview with Fox News and was asked by the host, Martha MacCallum. Martha MacCallum said to Trump, listen, Charlie Kirk said, quote, there is no such thing as hate speech. So this is Martha MacCallum saying, hey, maybe ease up on like the fucking crusade that you're doing against anybody who like even mildly disagrees with Charlie Kirk after his death, right? So she says, hey, Charlie said there's no such thing as hate speech. Trump replies, he might not be saying that now. Unbelievable. So, as many people online are pointing out, this is fucking more insensitive than the thing that got Jimmy Kimmel axed. Way more insensitive. All Jimmy Kimmel said was like, MAGA is working overtime to make sure this isn't, like, they want people to make sure this is not one of their guys, right? They're really trying hard to say, this is not one of us, this is not one of us. And then he made a joke about how Trump reacted when asked about Charlie Kirk. They were like, sir, how are you doing? And Trump goes, I'm doing okay. Anyway, look over there. They're working on the ballroom now. Isn't that amazing? It's going to be beautiful. They've been trying to get it for like 150 years, but yours truly got it. It's going to be 90,000 square feet, $200 million. We're building a great ballroom. So he didn't give a fuck. He did not give a flying fuck about the death of Charlie Kirk. That's what Jimmy Kimmel was making fun of. And wow, would you look at that? He gets fucking censored. By the way, censored because the FCC was threatening ABC and saying, hey man, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. That's a direct quote. Acting like a fucking mafia they were. So anyway, here's Trump being way more insensitive than Jimmy Kimmel was, and nobody cares. Nobody, there'll be no accountability whatsoever for this guy. All right, more. So Trump was on Air Force One, and he also said the following. I mean, you literally can't make this up. Just on any given fucking random Thursday, this guy will say something that is like the most unconstitutional shit you've ever heard in your life. So this is what he said, quote, "You have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump. They're not allowed to do that." You have evening shows and all they do is hit Trump. They're not allowed to do that. Yes, the fuck they are. That's sort of like the whole point of America. That's the whole point of the Constitution and the First Amendment. Freedom of speech. They're not allowed to do that? They're not allowed to make fun of the president? Are you fucking kidding me? Guys, I mean, so immensely thin-skinned. I've never seen anything like it. Just like a petty little insecure bitch. It's unbelievable. Look, I'm somewhat in the public eye. People fucking rip me a new asshole on a daily basis. They mock me. I'm sure they say every fucking negative thing under the sun. I get death threats. Everybody who's in the public eye, to one extent or another, deals with these things. I don't give a fuck. Say what you want, bitch. Who cares? I'm not going to see it anyway. Right? And I'm a YouTuber, bro. I'm a YouTuber. You're president of the United States, and you're working overtime to try to muzzle any criticism, no matter how minor it is, on late night TV from comedians? My God. But again, to everybody out there who pretended like Trump was pro-free speech and the Republicans are pro-free speech and the Democrats are for censorship, and that's why you support Republicans. Again, tell me how my ass tastes. In fact, we're going to graduate that a little bit. Don't tell me how my ass tastes. Tell me how my anus tastes. Tell me how my fucking colon tastes. How about that? Let's use even grosser words to say the same thing because, you were just wrong. You were just spectacularly wrong. And again, none of the people who said that will correct themselves now. None of the people will say, you know what, egg on my face, I was fucking wrong. Turns out Kamala Harris was way better for free speech. Actually, shout out to Andrew Schultz's co-host. What's his name? Akash Singh, I think it is. I saw earlier today, he said something. He was like, look, yeah, sure, we don't like far left policies. We go after the far left all the time. But the fact of the matter is, Joe Biden was not trying to get comedians canceled or fired because they said the word retard. This is what he said. This is what Andrew Schultz, I don't think Andrew Schultz was there, but his co-host, Akash Singh, said that. And it's like, yes, that's right. All the fucking crying and whining and moaning about cancel culture under a Democratic administration, I got news for you. None of it had anything to do with the actual Democratic president or Democratic politicians. There were no Democratic politicians that were actually getting fucking comedians fired. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. Now, I remember, 'cause apparently I'm a fucking naive sucker, but I remember defending the likes of Ann Coulter or Ben Shapiro and saying, you know what? If you're a lefty and you're trying to deplatform them and not allow them to speak at this university or this college, fucking calm down, okay? Free speech is the thing. Let them talk. Now, by the way, that had nothing to do with the government. It was actual people from the grassroots saying, we don't want them speaking here, right? But I still said, you know what? Let him speak. Just let him speak. I mean, I believe in free speech. If I go to give a speech, I wouldn't want conservatives blocking me from speaking, right? Well, guess what? Now we're in a situation where that was the extent of the cancel culture under Democratic administrations and from lefties. Now here we are under a Republican administration. It's not even a grassroots thing. It's the fucking FCC at the order of Donald Trump. It's the government saying, you need to shut the fuck up. You need to stop criticizing the president. Did you just say a bad word about Charlie Kirk? How about we get your ass fucking censored and fired? So there is no spare me with the fucking, even the false equivalence bullshit. No, one side is just better than the other side. Democrats are just better than Republicans on issues of the First Amendment and free speech. That's a fact. There is no way around what I just laid out for you. That's a fact. And if you support free speech, if you support the First Amendment, if you support the Constitution, you have to be pro-Democrat and anti-Republican because it's the biggest threat ever to free speech that I've ever seen. And it's actually the government taking the action here, not a group of fucking, libbed up college kids with septum rings and purple hair, okay? Jesus Christ. All right, let's continue. Oh boy. This might be, I gotta try to not have an aneurysm as I walk you through this one, okay? So as you all know, Brian Kilmeade the other day on Fox and Friends, he said, we should give homeless people the involuntary lethal injection. That's what he said. And then he said, just kill them. He literally said the words, just kill them. again, we're talking about homeless people. We have almost 800,000 homeless people in this country. About 30,000 of them are veterans. These are people. These are Americans. They had hopes and dreams, and they have families, and they have stories, and probably horror stories. Medical bills made them go bankrupt. They went back on their mortgage. Their wife died, and they lost their shit. Whatever it may be, right? Had a great support system, but was an alcoholic, and, train went off the tracks a little bit. Whatever it may be. He said, just kill them. Talking about homeless people. Involuntary lethal injection, also known as, you may as well be fucking goose-stepping and Heil Hitlering, right? Zig Heiling, because, you're literally, this is just a Holocaust, genocide, propaganda type shit. You're literally just like, I am Hitler, call me Hitler. You may as well say that on your shitty fucking morning show. So Brian Kilmeade says that. Then the same week, and we covered this on the show, you can check out the video, the same week, there was a mass shooting at a homeless camp. I wish I was kidding. I'm not kidding. Foxho says, give them involuntary lethal injection, quote, just kill them, talking about homeless people. Then somebody goes and shoots up a homeless camp. Now, what happened? He came out and gave some fucking, this was before the shooting, but he came out and gave some half-assed apology. Some half-assed, like, oh yeah, I guess that wasn't fair. I guess some homeless people aren't fucking horrible, so oops, our bad. Very half-assed, not even trying, lazy fucking, I guess I gotta say this type stuff, right? So now, the same guy who said, just kill them, talking about homeless people, and then somebody did do that, right? He says this about Jimmy Kimmel. Quote, Kimmel's comments went way too far. Not only that, it was two separate shows. He did it. He said it during Fox and Friends, his morning show, and then he seemingly filled in for somebody at night on a different show. I don't know which show he was filling in for, but he was one of the late night hosts. Both times, he's out there go, oh, Jimmy Kimmel, disgusting. He went too far. He went too far? Motherfucker, what he said is not 1/1000th as bad as what you fucking said. And you know that. Everybody knows that. Nobody's dumb enough not to see that. Oh, what a sick joke this is. Holy shit. Again, all Jimmy Kimmel said was, Maga's working overtime to say this isn't one of our guys. And oh yeah, Trump is really torn up. Look at how Trump reacted. And that's when Trump was like, asked about how he feels. He goes, I'm fine. Anyway, look at our big ballroom. It's amazing, isn't it? That's it. That wasn't even close to the line. It was so far away from the line. And by the way, because this is the dodge, right? The dodge is, well, it's not that he said something offensive. It's that he said something factually incorrect. And that's why it's okay for the FCC to get involved and get him fired. If that's the standard, oh, he said something factually incorrect, guess what? Fox News was fined $787 million because they openly lied in a defamatory fashion against the voting machine companies when they were pretending the 2020 election was rigged. $787 million. Virtually all of their hosts were lying their ass cheeks off day in and day out. So if you want to say, hey, you said something factually wrong, then Fox News had to be taken off the air fucking yesterday, bitch. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. It's got nothing to do with factually right, factually wrong. And I should point out also, we just learned that the guy who did the shooting, Tyler Robinson, the guy who did the shooting of Charlie Kirk, turns out, you want to know what his Steam gaming name was? Donald Trump. So this idea that, oh, that conversation is closed, you can't entertain the idea that maybe the kid is a Nazi or a groiper or whatever. Get the fuck over yourself, please. Of course we can speculate. Of course we can talk about it. Of course we can bring up the inconsistencies in the story that make no sense. How the official narrative's got fucking giant holes in the story where you could drive a Mack truck through the holes. Are you kidding me? You're allowed to say they were left-wing, you're allowed to say they were right-wing, you're allowed to say they were fucking apolitical, you're allowed to say I think the whole thing was a fucking conspiracy, inside job, whatever the fuck. We're adults here, okay? We're not fucking playing this game. Jesus Christ. Jesus fucking Christ. Kimmel's comments went way too far from the guy who literally said this week, kill them all. Talking about homeless people, just kill them. All right. Oh, here's another one. Ready for this? So, Representative Randy Fine, also known as the disgusting pig hog freak, who weighs about 800 pounds and spends all of his time jacking off to the bodies of dead Palestinians. Representative Randy Fine went on CNN, and he said, we live in a world where a meaningful percentage of people now believe violence is legitimate. And Dana Bash says, well, Kimmel didn't legitimize violence. And Fine says, those comments blaming Maga for the death of Charlie Kirk. And Bash says, that's not what he said. And Fine says, I gasped when I read it. So according to Randy Fine, it is unacceptable that we live in a world where a meaningful percentage of people now believe in political violence. That's what he says. He gasped when he read the mild comments from Jimmy Kimmel. You ready for this? Randy Fine is the guy who has now said multiple times in front of cameras, we should nuke Gaza. The guy who says we should treat Gaza like Hiroshima and Nagasaki and incinerate over 2 million people. Over 2 million people. That guy is outraged over a joke by a late-night comedian. I'm sorry, guys. Look, it's an unavoidable conclusion. These people are liars. These people are dishonest. These people are pathetic. These people don't give a fuck about telling the truth and being honest. They're in this for the game. They're in this for the sport. Me good, you bad. Right good, left bad. This is their fucking Neanderthal knuckle-dragging ass politics. Because again, we have somebody who literally called to nuke Gaza who said, I can't believe people are okay with political violence. And when he says that, what he means is, God forbid, after Charlie Kirk died, you posted direct quotes of Charlie Kirk with no added commentary. Or you condemned the murder, but then said, but I also disagree with him and here's why. He says that's fucking unacceptable. You're part of the problem. I get to call for nuking Gaza. You, on the other hand, don't get to criticize, even in context, even condemning murder, Charlie Kirk. Hold on one second. I gotta let Stinky in. It's becoming a tradition that I have to let Stinky in while I do these segments. It is hot out here for her, though. She's like a cold weather dog. You should see her in like the middle of winter when it's 22 degrees outside. That's when she's outside and wants to stay outside. Like she doesn't want to come in. It's kind of amazing. All right. Anyway, so for her, like 80 degrees feels like 112 or whatever the fuck. All right. So now let's talk a little bit more about this Kimmel thing. So what people need to understand is he wasn't really fired for the joke. Like, yes, he was. Like, this was the straw that broke the camel's back, and the FCC applied the pressure to ABC to say, you got to let him go because of this. So the government is directly responsible for getting involved and getting him fired. But the fact of the matter is, Nexstar is trying to do a very large merger with this other company, Tegna. And so they're going to do whatever the fuck it takes because the merger has to be approved by the FCC. So this is another case that's honestly exactly like the Colbert case. Colbert effectively fired for the same thing. You know, the parent company wants to do a merger, needs to get approved by the FCC, so they're going to suck off Trump in order to get this thing approved. That's the bottom line. And so that's what happened with Colbert. That's exactly what happened here, too, with Kimmel. So, guys, the big takeaway here, and this is something most people are missing, is that oligarchy is a threat to democracy and a threat to constitutional rights. Let me repeat that. Oligarchy is a threat to democracy and a threat to constitutional rights. If you have billionaires, if you have a handful of multinational corporations that control everything and everyone, well, guess what? For dollars and cents, for profit, to get their way, they will do whatever to appease the king, appease the emperor, overlord, God. And so this is why it's like, oh, I don't give a fuck about the free speech of late-night comedians. I don't give a... If they want us to have wall-to-wall fucking Sean Hannity types on, we'll do that, because all we care about is getting this merger approved and cashing in, bro. And so, as a direct result of the consolidation of the media and the FCC being able to determine, okay, we're going to approve this merger, we're going to approve that merger, well, directly at the altar of that, we've now lost our rights. You know, the government is literally censoring people for their speech. So look, I would go as far as to say that I think Jimmy Kimmel would have a phenomenal case in court. But the fact of the matter is, clearly the network has no interest whatsoever in fighting for this. So it would have to be Jimmy Kimmel himself that takes up the case. And he's a wealthy guy, but is he wealthy enough to take on the entire fucking U.S. government and go through like a 7-year fucking court battle to try to get the conclusion where he knows he'll win? But then what? Like, okay, so you force your way back onto ABC after ABC becomes, you know, a Trump TV network or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's an amazing thing when you know substantively and factually you're correct and legally you're correct, but it doesn't matter. Right? It doesn't matter because the whole process is too arduous to go through to come out the other end and be fucking vindicated. Right? So I'm telling you, man, It was a fucking mistake to ever allow the consolidation of the media like this. In fact, that's one of those things you should be blaming Bill Clinton for. Bill Clinton signed the law that allowed the consolidation of media. It used to be like 50 big media companies, or medium-sized, I guess you can say. Now we're down to 5 big media companies that control everything, and they're trying to further merge, right? So it's all about dollars, it's all about cents, it's all about profit, and the billionaires will do anything and everything to appease the president in order to get what they want. And that means sacrifice everything else at the altar of that. Fuck free speech. Who gives a fuck about free speech? This is how they're thinking. That's how they're thinking. All right. So Trump, realizing that he got a scalp here, he took a bit of a victory lap. And so the other night he said, "Great news, America. The ratings challenge Jimmy Kimmel is canceled. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has 0 talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, 2 total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC." So this is what Trump says. So in other words, what do I always fucking tell you guys? What do I always tell you guys? I say, if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. If you give them an inch, they will take a mile. Well, here, they give the head of Jimmy Kimmel served on a fucking platter to Trump, right? And Trump's like, that's great. When are you going to fire Jimmy Fallon, and when are you going to fire Seth Meyers? Now, by the way, God, this should perfectly explain everything to you, right? Jimmy Fallon is like the milquetoast, both sides, centrist bitch. I mean, he's had Trump on his show during, like, the 2016 campaign. Remember, he, like, rubbed his hair and giggled about it with Trump and shit. This guy's not some flaming lefty. He's barely liberal, if liberal at all. Okay? He's a total, like, apolitical fucking nerd. He's certainly not my style that I like to watch. But the fact of the matter is, he's not some sort of seething fucking critic of the regime. And even he is a bridge too far for Mr. fucking intensely sensitive bitch boy, President Trump. Even he. So what does that tell you? Again, never give them an inch, they'll take a mile. You give him exactly what he wants. Hey, here's Colbert's gone and Jimmy Kimmel's gone. And he's like, okay, but what about Fallon? And what about Seth Meyers? God, how do you actually handle Trump? Well, what did Governor Pritzker show us? You stand up, you put both your fucking balls on the table, and you go, that's right, bitch, I'm not giving you anything. You had Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, and you had J.B. Pritzker say, if you're going to send the military here, let me be clear about something. We are not in any way, shape, or form cooperating. In fact, we told our police officers, you are not to cooperate with federal troops or with the National Guard from fucking Texas being sent here or whatever the fuck. You're in charge. They're not in charge. We're not abiding. We're not abiding. And what happened? All of a sudden, Trump goes, well, we're looking into sending the troops to Memphis. Oh, is that so? So when somebody stands up and punches the bully in the fucking mouth, he bleeds a little bit and he's got to back off a little bit, huh? Jesus Christ. When will they learn? They'll never fucking learn. But they don't care because all they care about is their merger, bro. That's it. So as Adam Schiff said on Twitter, Kimmel's gone, Colbert's gone. There's suits against the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and 60 Minutes. Trump is suing all of those. He got extortion settlements from CBS, ABC, and others. He's blocking the Associated Press's access to the White House because they refuse to say the goofy fucking Gulf of America, which they made up. It's really the Gulf of Mexico, of course. So what's going to be left of the Second Amendment by the time we're gone? What is going to be left? It's a really, really fucking terrifying thing to think about. Now, so Mike Pence was doing some event with the Atlantic, and he was asked about this, about the FCC getting involved to get Jimmy Kimmel fired. And he said this, quote, "The First Amendment, though, does not protect entertainers who say crass or thoughtless things." I am so done with these people, man. I have zero respect for these people. They have zero integrity. I mean, this is pathetic. There is no crass or thoughtless exception to the First Amendment. And again, let's be clear. This is definitely a First Amendment violation because the government made it so that he got fired. It was Brendan Carr at the FCC who made it so he got fired at the behest of Trump. So this is the government getting somebody fired over jokes they don't like. So fuck Mike Pence. Meanwhile, what a cuck, right? You had Trump and Maga fucking cheering for you to get hanged on January 6th. And then here you are, well, I agree with him on some things and disagree on other things. And so, I still think he's doing a great job on taxes and things like that. Shut the fuck up. Have some fucking pride. Do you have no pride? What a sad little man. Jesus Christ. He unmanned you. Him and his people threatened to fucking murder you. Trump said, well, maybe he deserves it, when he was told that people were chanting, hang Mike Pence. This is the guy you're going to genuflect at his altar after all this time? When you're fucking persona non grata now? Oh my God, what a joke. By the way, during the episode of The View that they just recorded, there was zero mention of Jimmy Kimmel and ABC and the FCC and the whole thing and Trump. So clearly they got marching orders where they were told, you are not allowed to fucking talk about this. This is crazy, bro. This is absolutely crazy. It's kind of shocking how bad it is. So as of right now, Trump's allies now control X, that's, Twitter, Elon Musk, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, Instagram, WhatsApp, TikTok. They own Fox News, CBS, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, New York Post, Newsmax, One America News Network. They own Sinclair Broadcasting, which has 200 TV stations and local news in 100 markets. By the way, Sinclair, which carries a lot of the ABC affiliates that, helped get Jimmy Kimmel kicked off. Sinclair was saying, we demand that Jimmy Kimmel pay millions of dollars, I forget the exact amount, but pay a bunch of money to Turning Point USA. We're demanding that he pays money. So now he's also getting extorted. On top of being fired for his fucking free speech, for something that wasn't controversial that every idiot is pretending is controversial. Now they're saying, oh, yeah, by the way, also you have to fund the fucking, this far-right youth organization. Like, what a sick country. What a sick fucking country we live in. So that's how cooked we are right now. So either you consolidate under the banner of MAGA billionaires, right? Or Trump sues you and tries to take you down and ruin your outlet. This is a hostile media takeover, very similar to Viktor Orban, who did this in Hungary. So understand, guys, we are truly at a tipping point. I don't know if this country survives this. The total MAGA media takeover. I don't know if this country survives it. We are really skating on thin ice right now, bro. And the fact that it's already gotten as far as it did is very, very upsetting. I should also point out that in the World Press Freedom Index, we've already tanked. We've already plummeted quite a bit. We've already gone down like 30 points or something like that in the Press Freedom Index. So that shows you how bad it is. Now, on that same topic, and I think I alluded to this earlier, but TikTok is reportedly escalating a sweeping crackdown on pro-Palestine creators. So according to Dropsite News, they're deleting videos, scrubbing comments, burying posts about Gaza. In July, it hired this person named Erica Mindell. This is a former IDF instructor who says her Zionism was, quote, shaped during Operation Protective Edge. That's the 2014 assault on Gaza, where Israel killed, I believe it was 80% civilians in Gaza. A couple weeks later, on September 13th, TikTok introduced an overhaul of its community guidelines, banning users from calling the IDF terrorists and rolling out automated moderation that retroactively wipes posts. Users report Free Palestine comments disappearing in real time and Israeli war crimes videos taken down. Oracle, Silver Lake, Andreessen, and Horowitz are set to buy up to 80% of TikTok's U.S. operation, a move that's likely to make the platform even more aggressive in censoring pro-Palestine content. Understand something, guys. This is not good. This is not good. In fact, I don't know how much longer until this does. What, you think this can't happen on YouTube? Fucking of course it can happen on YouTube. Of course. We already told you the sly censorship trick they just did, where they use AI to determine if they think you're 18 or under, and if you are, they automatically put you on restrictive mode. I already told you about that. By the way, check to see if your thing is on restrictive mode. It's the top right. Click the little circle that is the YouTube icon, and then scroll down. It'll say restrictive mode, and make sure that's off, right? But they did that automatically for a lot of people that hurt our views. We dropped like 30% or so, right? Who's to say there won't be some fucking IDF censor now going after YouTube too? I mean, the head of YouTube and the head of Google was playing ball. Was at Trump's billionaire oligarch meeting the other week, so. I mean, honestly, we should be starting to think of contingency plans. We should, come up with some shit where we can have our own website or something and have it hosted in a place where, they wouldn't take it down at the request of the U.S. government, because this is just, one fucking phone call from the big guy and any one of your favorite creators is donezo, is gone. It's a wrap, son. You think we're protected? We ain't protected for shit. If they can get to Jimmy Kimmel, like this mega wealthy star who's been on late night TV for so long, and all it took was the FCC saying we could do this the easy way or the hard way, and they tossed that guy right under the fucking bus. What, you think we're Teflon over here? Not a chance, bro. Not a chance. So pro-Palestine stuff is getting hammered over on TikTok. All right. We also have this. You want to talk about disturbing. So this is from NBC News. Pentagon leaders are considering a recruiting campaign centered around Charlie Kirk. Possible slogans discussed include, Charlie has awakened a generation of warriors, and there's talk of using TPUSA chapters as recruitment centers. So the reason why this is so disturbing and completely and utterly unacceptable is this is yet another clear attempt to politicize the military. So in other words, what they're saying here is, we really only want far-right conservatives in the military. This way, when Trump orders you to do some wildly illegal or unethical things and invade liberal cities, for example, like he's been doing, nobody fucking talks back. Nobody disagrees. Nobody resigns. Nobody makes a big stink over it. They say, yeah, we'll do whatever the fuck you want, boss. That's what this is. So trying to use Charlie Kirk for recruitment, I mean, they're treating him like a martyr. They're using him as a martyr. It's very, very disturbing, man. It really is. All right, more. I should point this out about Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC. This is the sort of stuff he was saying before he became Trump's head of the FCC. In 2019, he said the following. Should the government censor speech it doesn't like? Of course not. The FCC does not have a roving mandate to police speech in the name of the public interest. He said that in 2019, bro. Here's one from 2022. President Biden is right. Political satire is one of the oldest and most important forms of free speech. It challenges those in power while using humor to draw more people into the discussion. That's why people in influential positions have always targeted it for censorship. That sounds exactly right, son. That sounds exactly fucking right, and that's exactly what you just did. Unbelievable. And now he's posting fucking epic memes about Jimmy Kimmel getting fired. He's like fucking giggling and laughing about it. Mr. Free speech is so important. I'm going to protect free speech anyway. We do this the easy way or the hard way. You going to fire this guy or what? What are you going to do? You better fucking do it. You better do it. Unbelievable. Guys, these people, I want you to understand something. They have zero values, zero principles. They believe in nothing. This guy is a hired hitman for Trump. He's a hired hitman for Trump. And if he ever believed in anything, he certainly doesn't anymore. J.D. Vance also, another great example. So he said, quote, our own government encouraged private companies to silence people. Under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square. You literally couldn't make this stuff up. You literally couldn't make this stuff up. So failed drag queen J.D. Vance, humiliating himself, doing the exact opposite of what he said his position was. I like the I've Had It ladies, the I've Had It podcast ladies. They call him Lil Smokey Eye. That's it. The failed drag queen Lil Smokey Eye. Loved free speech. Oh, I'm all about free speech. I'm all about jokes. I'm all about comedy. We would never pressure anybody. We're the government. We would never do that because we believe in free speech. Oh, what's that? Jimmy Kimmel said something that wasn't even controversial, but it included Charlie Kirk in it. Well, I guess we're going to have to go ahead and ban him. Unbelievable. Trump himself, ready? This is when he was celebrating 100 days of his second term. He said the following, quote, I banned all government censorship and restored free speech. Unfucking real. Unreal. Unreal. Now, meanwhile, you all know the laundry list of shit that he fucking did. You all know he's been threatening to de-license news outlets he doesn't like, that he sued Bill Maher over a joke for $5 million before he was president, that he said we need to open up the libel laws. We got to open up those libel laws. He wanted journalists arrested for reporting on the Supreme Court. Remember that? I mean, this guy's always, he wants to put you in prison for a year if you burn the American flag, which is literally protected by the Supreme Court as free speech in the 1980s, they said. This counts as free speech. He doesn't care. So he was already hostile to free speech. But now, as he brags about restoring free speech, he's getting late-night comedians fired for jokes he doesn't like. Absolutely incredible. All right, now, let me switch gears a little bit here. Because, look, we've been talking a lot about this Charlie Kirk shooting and how the official story just doesn't add up. And you guys know, I've showed you all the pictures, I've showed you all the videos, I've given you all the updates. But the fact of the matter is, I haven't ever heard a good explanation for the decoys. There were two decoys. One guy with a pellet gun, which looked like a real gun. The cops wasted time going after him. The other guy was an even creepier decoy where he was screaming, I did it, shoot me, shoot me. This guy also happened to allegedly also be at 9/11 when the planes hit the towers, and he called in a bomb threat in 2013 to the fucking, Utah Marathon or some shit like that, Salt Lake City Marathon. So I don't understand. There's no good explanation for that. There's also no good explanation for the multiple times Tyler Robinson changing clothes and multiple times him assembling and disassembling the rifle. So I'm convinced, I'm not even sure they got the right guy. Okay, let me just say that. I'm not even sure they got the right guy. Well, guess what? Now there's this video floating around all over social media. You have this guy who's a gun guy, gun expert, and he has the exact same rifle that Tyler Robinson allegedly used, and he shows everybody, hey, here's what would happen if you put it together and take it apart, put it together and take it apart. And first of all, he's using a tool to do it. It takes longer than what you'd expect. But more importantly, and this part I didn't know until I watched this video, it wouldn't fit. Even when you break it down, the pieces don't fit in a backpack that's the size of the backpack that Tyler was wearing. So, I mean, it all stinks to the high heavens, bro. Those text messages that they released, which sounded like they were written by some 50-year-old fucking investigator. My old man says, like, this isn't fucking the same guy who was using those, like, talking in memes on the bullet engravings was also I went to my vehicle. No, you say car. Oh my God, it's incredible. Like, they happen to plug every hole in the investigation. He just goes through it. Remember when I was engraving bullets? Like, what the fuck is that? So that's fishy enough. But I'm telling you, according to this gun expert, and he does, a whole demonstration for you, when you break down that gun, it does not fit. It does not fit in the backpack that's the size of the one Tyler Robinson was using. So that just leads to more questions, bro. Leads to more questions. Now, we already told you immediately after the killing of Charlie Kirk, you had all these right-wingers calling for civil war, threatening violence, and all this stuff. Well, since then, 5 different HBCUs have gotten bomb threats. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody cares. The DNC got a bomb threat. Nobody talks about it. Nobody cares. Another incident the other day. Shots were fired at the home of an Illinois Democratic state lawmaker. So things keep happening. And we covered this on the show the other day, but 2 different black men were found hanging from trees in Mississippi after Charlie Kirk was killed. And this is also after Forgiato Blow released his, that's a MAGA rapper, he released a song explaining step by step how to lynch. So this is what's going on in the world right now. This is what's going on. And by the way, all these, what I think are retaliatory efforts from the right to like, hey, you got Charlie, so now we're going to get some of you guys, it's not being discussed as such. People are still pretending like, oh, these things aren't connected. Like, it's truly unbelievable. Now, at the same time all that's going on, House Republicans, as you all know, they voted at least 4 or 5 times to block the release of the Epstein files, right? But now they did something else. So House Republicans voted no on a motion to subpoena the Epstein-Maxwell bank records. They don't even want to see the Epstein-Maxwell bank records, which, by the way, could tell you everything you want to know about all of the clients. They're not interested in that. They're not interested in that at all. By the way, Thomas Massey also said that the FBI is sitting on a list of 20 men connected to Epstein's trafficking operation, including a high-ranking government official. He says the FBI is sitting on information, including information that would indict a high-ranking government official. I guarantee you, the laundry list of people that are guilty, and if this would come out in the Epstein files, I mean, it would blow your mind. We already know there's a bunch of celebrities and sports figures and politicians and business figures who are, sort of implicated in it. It would be way worse than any of you realize, man. Way worse. All right, more. So how's this for a war on free speech? A U.S. judge ordered Mahmoud Khalil deported, citing misrepresented facts on a green card form. So now they're trying to get this guy kicked out, basically on a technicality. And this is yet another judge basically kowtowing to Trump, giving Trump whatever the fuck he wants. And here we are. So now, remember, the only crime Mahmoud Khalil committed was protesting the Israeli genocide in Gaza. That's it. That's it. He was against babies being carpet bombed on a live stream 24/7. He voiced those concerns. He was locked up for weeks, if not months. I don't even remember the specifics. Then he was released, and God bless him, he's still out there protesting for the people of Gaza right now. He's a hero for doing that, but they still want to deport him. And remember, guys, just like we saw with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, just like we saw with the courts making this insanely hideous decision, they say, oh, even if we deport you, we can send you wherever the fuck we want to send you. It doesn't even have to be the other country that was a home before you came here. It could be, they want to send, we'll send you to fucking Uganda. We'll send you to Libya, where there's open slave markets. I'm not kidding. This is now official U.S. policy. We can deport you and send you wherever the fuck we want to send you, even if you don't speak the language, even if you don't know anybody there. We can do whatever we want. And so now, Lord only knows where Mahmoud Khalil will be sent, but he committed the crime of criticizing Israel. And now they're trying to ruin his life over that. That's what they're doing. All right, so this actually just happened about an hour before I pressed record on this video, but the U.S. House voted on a resolution to honor Charlie Kirk. Every Republican voted for it, and 95 Democrats voted for it as well, which means 58 voted against it. The majority of Democrats voted against it. 58 voted no on it, 38 voted present, and then I guess 22 were no votes. But the plurality, I guess you could say, of Democrats voted in favor of honoring Charlie Kirk, giving him a day. Not to be clear, it's not like a holiday. It's not like every year on this date it's going to be Charlie Kirk Day. It's like a day of remembrance. You know what I'm saying? I think it's for just 1 year, I think. It's incredible. And by the way, the reason why they did it, when we happen to know this from other reporting, but Axios is reporting that Democrats are worried about violence. They're worried. They were in a closed-door meeting on Thursday, and they were like, bro, we are afraid that, angry Republicans are going to come here with AR-15s and shoot us in the face. That's what we're afraid of. And so they're kowtowing. Now, look, understand something. It's a given. I hate how everybody becomes like a fucking kindergartner in moments like this, where, like, the only point you're allowed to make in 50 different ways is like, hey, guys, murder is bad. Like, oh, is it? Oh, I didn't fucking know that. Thank you for fucking enlightening me on that shit. Like, it's so frustrating because that's all you're allowed to say, right? If you say anything else, oh, how dare you? Are you justifying the murder? God forbid you talk about the actual issues Charlie Kirk spoke about and you disagree with him. Oh, are you justifying the murder? It's so fucking childish, bro. It's so childish. So, look, I understand wanting to make clear, like, hey, I'm against political violence. That makes perfect fucking sense to me. But at the same time, if you're doing a fucking day of remembrance and honoring him, by extension, part and parcel of that is, hey, the stuff he advocated for is at the very least within the realm of respectable debate. And I'm sorry, it's just not. It's just, he was against the fucking Civil Rights Act. Can we stop pretending here for just a second and admit, like, hey, that's not acceptable. That's not within the realm of reasonable opinion. And that's only one thing. I mean, I'm sure I could sit here and go through the entire record. We've done it before. I'm not going to do that in this moment. But the fact of the matter is, if you're a Democrat and you're voting to honor a person who had argued that the Civil Rights Act was bad, you're not a Democrat. Like, you're just not. I'm sorry. Step aside and let somebody with balls go in there and cast the proper vote. You know, if you say, I don't want to do a day of remembrance, that doesn't, I support murder. That's not what that fucking means. Don't let the right smear you and strawman you and say that, which, by the way, they're already doing that. So the right, I saw Randy Fine doing this, saying, oh, they didn't vote to condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk. No, you fucking disgusting, obese, lying, pathetic, grotesque smear merchant. That's not what the fuck they said, and you know that. But the bottom line is, they're going to hate you and they're going to smear you no matter what. And they're going to ratchet up the language. They want the violence to get ratcheted up. All that's going to happen anyway. So you might as well stand on principle and do the right thing if that's what they're going to do. I mean, you should always stand on principle no matter what happens. But especially since they're always going to fucking smear you. Even if every Democrat said, we're going to vote for the day of remembrance for Charlie Kirk, they would still fucking lie about it and say, but you besmirched him and how dare you? And you wanted him to die even though you voted for this. You're making up for the fact that you wanted him to die. That's why you voted this way. They will find a way to do it. So fucking man up, do the right thing, stop being little bitches. I swear to God, man, it's like, the right is allowed to have insane temper tantrums and lose their shit and become totally irrational. And it's always on, like, the left to fucking, like, emotionally manage these man children on the right. And it's like, I'm not fucking doing that anymore. It's not happening. It's not happening. So I'm so sickened by these Democrats who yet again bend the knee and they think, like, they're going to curry some favor for it. It's not going to happen. All you did is basically did the equivalent of, like, taking some person with extremist views and normalizing that. That's what you just did. That's what you just did, because you'd rather not have the debate about the actual policy beliefs of Charlie Kirk. That's what you did. It's a cop-out. You fucking copped out. That's what it is. All right, more. You thought that was bad. It gets worse. There's a new bill that was just filed in Oklahoma that says every public university in the state must have a Charlie Kirk Memorial Plaza with a statue of Kirk and his family. A fucking statue. They're mandating every public university in the state of Oklahoma has a fucking statue of Kirk and his family. And by the way, Democrats, remember, according to Republicans, if you vote against that, you supported murder. Again, that's the smear that they're going to do. I mean, it's just, what do you even say about this? What do you even say about this? Now, this one didn't pass. It was just filed. But who knows what's going to happen with it? You never know in this crazy moment. Maybe it will pass. Maybe it will pass. I don't know. But, stop and think about it. Could you imagine somebody on the left that's the equivalent of what Charlie Kirk was on the right? And it could be me. It doesn't have to be me because he was more attached to the party than I've ever been to the Democratic Party. He was part of the Republican Party apparatus. I am not part of the Democratic Party apparatus. That's a fact. So I'm not actually like the equivalent of him on our side, but whoever, fill in the blank with whoever. Brian Tyler Cohen is probably a closer match. He's closer to what Charlie did on the right. He's that on the left to some extent, right? Imagine myself or Brian Tyler Cohen or anybody who sort of fits that role gets murked. Just imagine that happens. And it happens under a Democratic administration, and allegedly somebody on the right does it. Just imagine this scenario for me. Would there be fucking Democratic states trying to pass laws in a frenzy to build statues to me or Brian Tyler Cohen? There's not a fucking not a chance. Would they vote? Would Democrats in Congress vote for a day of remembrance for me or Brian Tyler Cohen? Not a fucking chance. Every Republican would vote against it. And even if the Democrats had a majority, at least half the Democrats would also vote against that. It wouldn't even come, who am I kidding? Nobody would even think of proposing it, and it wouldn't even come up for a vote. See, this is the thing. It's the cry bully shit on the right where they always act like they are victims and they're outsiders. And it's like, motherfuckers, all of you are such colossal insiders. Your whole political project is reaffirming the hierarchy, giving more money to the rich, and destroying all of the minority communities that are already outsiders. Like, all you want to do is take every bad thing about this country and make it worse. You want to like solidify the hierarchy and make it like this permanently, make it worse permanently. And all the people who engage in that political project, they take big money for billionaires and they're baked into the cake of the infrastructure, and this is how they function, and they're insiders to the max. Us on the left here, like, nobody gives a fuck what we say, what we do. It doesn't matter how hard you work. It doesn't matter your track record. It's like if something were to happen to somebody, the equivalent of the Charlie Kirk on the left, nobody would give a flying fuck at all. Nobody. Like, yes, my audience would be sad or Brian's audience would be sad in a scenario like that, but that's it. That's where it would end, right? And so just that imbalance is really telling to me. That imbalance is so fucking telling to me that, like, on the right, they're actually working on something. They're working on something, and they know who's in and who's out, right? And the left is just this ragtag group of disorganized folks, that never have a strategy, never have a plan, never are working on some long-term thing. It's just totally fucking haphazard and disorganized. So anyway, it's just wild to me. We're talking about multiple statues of Charlie Kirk and his family in Oklahoma. Like, unbelievable. Truly fucking unbelievable. All right, let's keep going. Now, just to show you how everything is coming apart at the seams. So Republican optimism has absolutely plummeted in the new Associated Press NORC poll. So they were up there at like maybe even a little over 70% optimism among the Republican base. That number has now collapsed to 49%. So a majority are not optimistic about the future. This is under their guy, Trump, their guy. Now, why? Why do you think that is? Well, you know why that is. That's because the economy is going to absolute shit. I mean, we did a segment on this the other day, but there warning sign after warning sign is piling up. So I'll give you some more here too. 6 in 10 companies are planning to lay off employees in 2026 because of the economy. 6 in 10. So 60% are planning on laying people off in 2026. Oh, the recession is coming, y'all. The recession is fucking coming. Google searches for credit card debt are now higher than in the 2008 financial crisis. Just like help with mortgage, the searches for that are higher than in the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis and Great Recession. These are horrible signs, bro. Horrible signs. it's now official that the top 1% has more wealth than the entire middle class combined. This is why even Republicans are going, I'm not feeling very optimistic about the future. This is why, right here. Just absolutely incredible stuff. So, Trump's approval's at like 37, 38%. It's only going to get worse now. It's only going to get worse. And then when it gets worse, he's going to get more authoritarian and more extreme. So everybody, I'm just telling you, be ready, be prepared to deal with that, because as bad as it's been, it's going to get even worse. Our rights are going to be directly under attack. All right, now let's talk a little bit about Gaza. So over 400 artists and indie labels have removed their music from Israel as part of a plan to basically try to cut off all the music in Israel to make them stop the genocide. It's called No Music for Genocide Movement. And so, like I said, 400 artists and indie labels did it. Look, this is one of those things where the idea sounds silly at first, because it's like, really, you just cut off the music and like that'll be... But I don't know, it's respectable, and also if you get enough people to sign on to it, it might have some impact. In the same way that like a handful of countries cutting off economic ties with Israel might not do much. But if every single country, if you take an action and universalize it, and every single country did that, then it would have an effect. It would have an effect if the entire world said, you know what, we're done, we're not trading with you anymore, full embargo, you're on your own. That would have an effect. I think it would. So, yeah, that's a shout out to those artists. I respect it. I should also point out, how's this for disgusting? The United States vetoed a UN Security Council resolution that demanded an immediate Gaza ceasefire, despite it being tied to hostage release. So the U.S. is vetoing an immediate Gaza ceasefire. This is the same week the UN concluded there's no ands, if, or buts about it. There's no gray area. There's no middle ground. The UN report said Israel is definitely committing genocide. The U.S. looked at that and said, even giving that fact, we're going to veto an immediate Gaza ceasefire. Incredible. And again, even though all these ceasefires say you have to release all the hostages, every single one says that. So they're against both releasing the hostages and against having a ceasefire when it's been proven Israel is doing a genocide. I'm sorry, they all belong in the fucking Hague. Every single one of these people belongs in the fucking Hague. Every single one. All right, we're almost done here, guys, but let me point this out. This one makes me want to fucking put my nuts in a waffle iron. But Semaphore is reporting that Vivek Ramaswamy got a Teamsters endorsement. He got a fucking Teamsters endorsement, bro. I forgot. What's he running for? Is it governor or Senate? He's running for governor of Ohio. Okay. Now, look, Ohio's a red state pretty solidly. It's like a +8 red state or something like that. So, you know, it's likely to go red, but at the same time, I mean, Republicans are doing everything they possibly can to fuck themselves, where Democrats will probably have a good year. So we'll see. But the fact that he got a Teamsters endorsement, let me say something to you guys, man. The Teamsters are a fucking disgrace. Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters, is a fucking disgrace. Remember, there wasn't a single Republican who voted for the American Rescue Plan, and that bill included a $36 billion bailout for the Teamsters pension. So all the Democrats and Joe Biden saved the Teamsters pensions, and they thanked Biden by sitting out of the 2024 race and not endorsing Kamala, not endorsing the Democrats. All the Democrats were for saving the Teamsters pension, and all the Republicans were against it. And they go, oh, these things both look the same to me. I'll fucking sit out of this. It's a sick joke, bro. Never mind the CHIPS Act, never mind the infrastructure bill, never mind the good NLRB, which was great on labor issues. On all these areas that should matter to a labor union, without a doubt, the Democrats were way better than the Republicans in every imaginable way. But instead, you have Sean O'Brien, a fucking coward prick, who does this both sides bullshit. And so he stabbed the Democrats in the back after the Democrats delivered for him. And now you get the Teamsters endorsing Vivek Ramaswamy. I mean, it truly is incredible. You even had Sean O'Brien the other day. He said something like, right to work makes sense in some circumstances. Right to work is literally just anti-union legislation that they have in some states, which makes it harder to join a union. It's like, you're a fucking union leader and you're saying right to work, it might be okay in some circumstances. Like, that's, your whole position is based on crusading against stuff like right to work, because in reality, it's right to work for less. That's what it really is. Oh my God. So they endorse Vivek. Absolutely disgusting. I mean, they should be fucking ashamed of themselves. The Teamsters are probably the worst union in the country. I'll just say it. They're like the worst fucking union in the country. They're a disgrace. All right, and then finally, we'll end with this. Rogan. Rogan continues his descent into madness. So there's this female comedian, something Jensen. I don't remember her first name, but something Jensen. She was on Stavi's podcast recently, and Stavi was sort of like mocking her to her face because she was clearly auditioning for Rogan and trying to get on Rogan, and she did like this whole like anti-trans bit, right, an anti-feminist bit, and Stavi was like, wow, you really have Austin trans brain, huh? And so like now that's a thing. People are saying like, oh, Austin trans brain, or just Austin brain in general means like you're a right-wing hack, pretty much. So anyway, it was clear she's like, trying out for Rogan. Well, turns out she does go on Rogan. Wow, what a surprise. And ready for this? This is what our boy Rogan is up to these days. So Rogan says to her, did you get COVID? She says, I got COVID like 6 times. Rogan says, of course you did, because you got vaccinated. The people who didn't get vaccinated got it once or twice. And then she says, really? Shit. So this is what we're doing now. Rogan is now on a regular basis. So by the way, he's a polio vaccine denier. We covered that recently if you want to take a look at it. Him and Brian Callen were fighting. And he went full anti-vax crackpot. So type in Joe Rogan anti-vax with 2 X's crackpot. And I covered that whole exchange where he's just factually wrong with every single fucking thing he says about the vaccine. All of it. Just wrong. Wrongy McWrongington. That's what he was. Well, now, look at what he's doing here. So apparently in Rogan's mind, if you get vaccinated, that actually makes you more likely to get COVID. That's what he says. Thanks, Joe. Fucking, top 5 podcasts in the country with a giant audience is the shit he's talking about. What a fucking disgrace. Hey, Joe, are you going to come out here and do like 78 hours straight on how Republicans are anti-free speech and they hate the First Amendment and they're a threat to the country, and that now the right are the woke ones who do cancel culture all day and every day? Are you going to do that? Are you going to do that? Or are you going to say what you said before the election? Oh, if Kamala and Tim Walz get in there, free speech is going to be threatened. I'm not kidding. There was some headline that I tweeted, and, I saw that people were sharing was, he said something to that effect that like, oh, the Democrats will be a threat to free speech. Tim Walz and Kamala Harris will be. And here we are. Here we fucking are. Now you have Trump's FCC saying we do this the easy way or the hard way, basically bullying ABC that you have to fire a late night comedian because we don't like his jokes. He makes fun of the president too much. And then the president goes out there and get rid of Fallon next, get rid of Seth Meyers next. Is Rogan going to do 78 hours on this and fucking whine and cry and bitch and moan and say, hey, these motherfuckers are authoritarian. These motherfuckers are fascist. What the fuck? I thought you were the pro-free speech people. Here's my guess. Ready? To try to maintain some semblance of independence or, being above the fray and apolitical, he'll probably do a very tepid, like, I don't agree with what they did to Jimmy Kimmel, man. He's just making jokes, bro. That's all. But then that'll be basically the extent of it. It won't be, I'm going to call out Brendan Carr at the FCC. It won't be, I'm going to call out Donald Trump directly. It won't be, hey, mea culpa, I was wrong. It turns out the right is way worse on free speech issues than the Democrats protect free speech way more. You're not going to get that. You're going to get a mild, tepid little. That's my prediction. Hear me now, quote me later. All right, so there you go, guys. By the way, Tim Dillon already did that shit, too. Tim Dillon was like, oh, I don't agree with this, but I also don't agree with murdering Charlie Kirk. Yeah, bitch, we know. Like, what is wrong with people? Honestly, what is wrong with people? What is wrong with you? You feel the need, while saying, hey, the president shouldn't be getting late-night comedians fired for criticizing him, while doing that, you feel the need to say, oh, and also murder is wrong? They can't. Best case scenario you get from these freaks is both sides bullshit. They never just keep it real. They never just keep it real and say the fucking Republicans are ruining the country and Donald Trump is ruining the country. It's disgusting. It's fucking disgusting. So anyway, Tim Dillon already did I'm against the firing of Jimmy Kimmel, but also I'm against the killing of Charlie Kirk. Nobody thought you were for it. And also something, both sides. Okay, whatever. That's the best you're going to get is the both sides shit. All right, there you go, guys. I love you all very much. I know this was a long video, but we had a lot of stuff to talk about. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.